Hello everyone, I'm Susan Lee McDonald and welcome back to my show, The Interview. For athletes, it's an honor to make it to the national teams and represent their countries for international competitions. They are the chosen few, hand-picked folks who, among hundreds and thousands of athletes, get to show their stuff for their country and make their countrymen proud. Today, I'll be interviewing someone who is a non-ethnic Korean. That's right, a foreigner who has Korean citizenship. His name is Brock Radunske, and he'll be wearing the proud Taeguk mark on his jersey for the national ice hockey team. Join me as I interview Brock. The blue-eyed player of the national hockey team of Korea, who shows intense passion on the ice. It's none other than Brock Radunske, the first foreigner to become a naturalized citizen to represent Korea at international games. He was scouted by the Korean Anyang Halla in 2008 and named best player in his first season. He contributed to his team's success with the most goals and assists. Radensky excelled quickly to establish himself as the team's star player. Thinking of Korea as his second home, he acquired Korean citizenship. Let's meet Brock Radunske, who performs miracles on ice with the Taeguk mark on his uniform in an effort to push the Korean ice hockey team up to the top. Brock, welcome to The Interview. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
You know, this is the first time that I've had a national ice hockey team member here, and I'm super thrilled that it's also a foreigner.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's not every day I'm on a talk show either, so it's nice to be here.
Great. Well, you know, coming into this room, we are, after all, in your locker room, right? And although the audience members probably won't be able to have the same experience of smell, yeah. it has a particular odor here.
Yeah. You know, I guess over the years I've got used to it a little bit more than I'm sure the average person, but I think for someone coming into the locker room for the first time, they're going to notice a smell for sure.
Yeah, well, this is the genuine locker room, folks. This is not like the studio. And it's pretty cool to be here because this is where you guys just have your huddles, you have your meetings, you change, you know, bond. Yep. You must have some stories from the locker room here, yeah?
Yeah, you know, I've been on a team, and you know, like this is what they kind of call like the one area where, you know, certain things should stay in the room, and you know, sometimes you don't even kind of go home and tell your family about it because you know, there's things that happen in the game, and you know, in the situations where you know, the coach is you know, asking certain things of players, and you know, some things are pretty personal, and it's very unique to the situation that's happening. So you know, you guys are in the right place.
Really cool. Well, thanks again for letting us film here. You know, our show always films on location, but this is the first time that we've ever done it in the locker room and with a national sportsman like yourself. What's it like to be the first foreigner on a Korean national sports team?
You know what, it was a special experience for myself. You know, I didn't really know what to expect when I was going through it. You know, when they first came and asked me, you know, I was very, you know, interested, and you know, I'd been here for a long time, and played with, you know, the core group of players, and then, you know, I've seen them kind of go on in the summer and play in the international tournaments, and you know, I heard about it, and you know, that was one of the, you know, main draws for myself, is to kind of be able to compete on a more international level against, you know, other countries around the world.
Now the 7-month Asia League has officially begun, yes? And so you've scored 2 goals in the opening game, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's, congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. You want to get the first one sometimes. It can be the hardest to get. But then, you know, we won the first game, and then the second night we ended up losing. So we had an up and down start to the season.
But do you think that winning the first game kind of sets the pace for the season?
Of course, you always you want to get off to a good start, and you work all summer and then have that training camp with the team, and you want to kind of have some positive feedback going into the season for all that hard work you put in.
Definitely. I'd like to ask you about the Asia League of Ice Hockey. And I guess it's made up of 3 countries, Korea, Japan, and China. And it's called the 3 Kingdoms on Ice. Could you kind of explain a little bit about the game rules and what's comprised of everything there? I think the league started about 10 years ago, and before that, Korea had their own league. I think it was a 4-team league, and Japan had their own league, and at that time, I don't think Korea was, quite at the same level as some of those other countries, so they weren't necessarily invited into the league. But as the years went on, they started to improve, and I think Japan noticed and invited them into this kind of international league where they could compete against the other countries. For the most part, it's a 42-game schedule. You play every team 6 times, and we get to travel to Japan and to China. So, now I've been here for a few years, but like my first year over here, everything was very, very interesting. Well, I heard that since you joined the team back in 2008, that the team has made a remarkable amount of progress in terms of training and everything, and you've got a great set of people who are on staff, people who are very motivated, and you've got great team members, but something about your joining the team kind of gave it a little bit of boost. What do you think about that?
I try to chip in where I can, but I think there was a lot of wheels that were in motion during that kind of 2008 transition. I've just noticed from when I've gotten here, kind of the level of the young guys, or the rookies, you would call them, coming out of university, is kind of improving every year, and it's not kind of in the beginning when I first got here, there was a little bit more pressure kind of on the imports to kind of carry the team, but like as the years have gone by and the Koreans have improved, I guess coming up the ranks, there's been, I've maybe taken on more of still a big role on the team, but like a lesser role, and can kind of be a part of the team a little bit more, which is which I enjoy. Well,
maybe it's coincidence, because in the 2007-2008 year, the team ranked number 5, and then when you came aboard on 2008 and 2009 for that season, you guys won the playoffs. So there was a dramatic difference, climbing up to the top.
I mean, hockey is a team game too, though, and at any given time, there's 5 guys on the ice and another 15 on the bench, and for any one player to get the credit is not really fair.
Well, individually, how many points did you get that first season?
That first season, it was around 60, but I couldn't tell you the exact number.
That's pretty high, though, no?
That's pretty high. There's been some players that have beat me, though, so it's not an all-time high.
After that first season where you guys won the playoff and you also did so well individually, do you feel like that also set a tone where it put a lot of pressure on you to perform?
I mean, we had a good team, so there's always that pressure, and if you don't have that pressure, that means you're not really taking your job seriously. And when you're surrounded with good players, and there was some very good players here, and some other imports that are no longer here. They've actually retired and don't play anymore. But like I can't say enough about the supporting cast that I had during those years. And you say I was a big contributor, but it was really a group effort.
Brock, you seem like such a nice guy. I've only met you just today, but you seem like such a nice guy, very composed, and dare I say, kind of a gentle soul. What are you like on the ice? I mean, are you like this madman, crazy man that this other character comes out, or are you still nice on the ice?
I don't think you can really survive, and I mean, I'd say pro hockey by being super nice. You know, so you have to develop a little bit of a mean streak or whatever you call it. But you know, we talked about how it's an aggressive game, and you know, growing up, actually, you know, being one of like the taller guys on the ice, that was you know, more of a part of my game then. And you know, now that I've, you know, been in the Asia League a little bit more, you know, you know, I don't have to be as aggressive because it's not quite as an aggressive league compared to some of the other leagues around the world. But you know, I think your intensity is a big part of the game, and you know, and your focus, and you know, kind of your mental sharpness on the ice, and you know, getting to that point is a goal, and that you know, starts with your preparation and everything like that, you know, on a game day. But as long as you've brought yourself, you kind of raised your level of intensity, you know, you'll be ready for, you know, whatever's going to happen on the ice.
You were mentioning about the mental preparation that's necessary, that a lot of athletes really do, which they use, you know, visualization techniques and you know, meditation, all these different things. Is there something that you do specifically for your mental prep?
You know, I wouldn't say there's any one thing. You know, it's a long season and there's a lot of ups and downs. So you know, the longer I've been around the game and the longer I've played, it's gotten easier to kind of just go with the flow and realize that, you know, next game, or you know, is potentially going to be better. Like, you know, if you did have a bad game, or you know, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, you know, throughout the season to really, you know, show what you have, and you know, and bring your A game to the table, you know, however you want to call it. So you know, you know, for myself, it's is just knowing that, you know, the next shift or in the next game is going to be there, and to just, you know, shoot for that high level of performance always. You know, that's a goal, but to not, like, you know, for some reason, you know, I have a bad shift or a bad game, like, to really not get too down on that, and you know, just come back the next game and start all over.
You know, what I imagine with you, because you do seem like so nice off the ice. I mean, you're so pleasant to talk to and have this interview with. Is that I wondered, kind of coming in here, you know, does Brock do like Hulk, like visualizations? Like, does he go on the ice, or right before the ice, says, I'm going to be a mean guy, I'm going to be like really a terror on the ice? Like, is there some kind of mantra that you tell yourself?
You know, not really. I like, you know, depending on the stadium that you're in, you know, there could be a fair amount of fans, and you know, you have the music going, and you know, it's, you know, that's
that pumps you up, yeah?
Yeah, like, from a certain standpoint, your adrenaline gets going, and you know, I think once you're into the game, once you've gotten yourself into the game, which, you know, is half the battle, everything kind of takes care of itself. You know, then you've been in a lot of those situations before, and you know how to read and react, and you also know that if you're not ready, you know, you could be embarrassed, or you know, and it's your job, and so it's, you know, you take it serious.
Do you have any superstitions? You know, some people, they, you know, have a rabbit's foot, or they, you know, wear the same socks every time, or just different kinds of things. Do you have something like that?
Yes and no. You know, there was this, under the equipment, there's this like dry fit shirt that I wore for a bunch of years, but eventually the guys told me that I had to get rid of it because it was getting a little old. I'm sure that the guys for my first couple of years will know the one I'm talking about, but that's gone now. I had to start fresh because it's seen its better days. But
like, did you not wash it at all?
No, it gets washed, but it just takes, like you said, you know, when the first time you come in here, you can smell. So,
well, if the guys are telling you that it smells, then it's got to really smell.
It had seen its better days, and but it's, you know, nice to kind of start fresh sometimes too. But
sure.
Yeah.
On September 7th,
The Asia League Ice Hockey 2013-2014 regular season, often referred to as the Three Kingdoms on Ice, finally kicked off with a packed stadium of fans. This year, 8 teams from Korea, China, and Japan will compete against one another for the top spot until March of next year. Will Radensky, the blue-eyed Korean on Anyang Halla, lead his team to victory? The first game of the season has finally begun. A good start is half the battle. The first game is especially important as it sets the pace for the entire season. Amid the tense atmosphere created by the aggressive playing, the crowd rooted for their favorite teams. Anyang Halla recorded their first win in the opening game at 6-1, with Brock Radunske contributing with 2 goals and 2 assists.
라던스키 선수 이번에 저희 나라 한국 사람을 이제 기여한 걸로 알고 있는데요. 오늘 2골이나 벌써 넣으셨는데 계속 이렇게 활약해 주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
잘생겼어요. 일단 잘생긴 사람이 저희 팀이 됐다는 게 굉장히 기쁘고요. 또한 그러한 선수가 지금 활약을 하고 있다는 게 정말 자랑스럽습니다. 한국을 사랑하는 라던스키, 저도 사랑합니다. I love you.
An autograph signing event was held after the game to allow the fans to meet the players. The hero of the opening game was, of course, Radensky, who led his team to victory. We all hope to see Anyang Halla become the #1 team in the Asia League this year. So Brock, tell me when you started first playing hockey.
You know, I don't remember the exact age. I mean, everyone says I was like 2 or 3 when I first put on the skates, but I mean, it was a little after that before I was on a team, maybe 5 or 6. But I was fortunate enough to grow up, you know, in Canada where you have a little bit more land and normally with your house. So my dad actually made like an ice rink in our backyard.
An ice rink in your backyard.
Yeah, and I had an older brother at the time that was involved in minor hockey. So he was, you know, he used it a little bit more than I did. But you know, those were my first times out on the ice. Was just, you know, we called it the backyard rink, and the neighborhood kids would come over and just play for fun at that time.
To grow up with an ice hockey rink in your backyard must have given you incredible access to just have as much practice time as you wanted.
Yeah, for sure. You know, at that time it was, you know, you play because you love it. You don't really think of it like you're getting better. It was just kind of what you wanted to do as a kid, and you know, like it's kind of in your blood. It's a big part of the culture. You know, you grow up watching the Hockey Night in Canada. It's, you know, the TV show back home, but you know, it obviously, you know, like I said, like the neighborhood kids, they'd all want to come over and get involved in a game, and because of that, you know, and I didn't really probably realize it at the time. It probably gave me a little bit of a head start.
So, at a very young age, you were out on the rink, so skating was no problem, and then learning how to play ice hockey probably just came naturally because that's what you did for fun. And then you went on to Michigan State, where you played for the team there. Now, you were one of the most promising players of the Michigan State ice hockey team, and you were even picked by the NHL during the 3rd round, and you were number 79. Is that right?
Yep.
What was that entry draft process like for you?
Another special time, I guess. Bringing up all the memories.
Because that doesn't happen for everyone. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a goal of mine as a kid to kind of to play in the NHL. You know, I think that you kind of have to have, you know, I mean, obviously you can play for fun, but you know, as I was getting older, if you want to succeed, you have to set your goals high. You know, so that was like, you know, the draft was like a stepping stone to, you know, at the time was, you know, kind of like my dream to play in the NHL. But, you know, you don't, like getting drafted doesn't necessarily mean you're on the team. And I still had my college career to finish. And then at that point, you know, I did ended up signing a contract and played in the Edmonton Oilers organization. But you know, at that time, it was just like it was a time where you could kind of sit back and just, you know, feel good about kind of how far I had come at that stage of my career.
Sure. And I imagine that because you didn't actually end up playing for the NHL, that must have also been a disappointment, even though you were drafted, which is a great honor because you weren't able to play. How did that kind of figure into your dreams?
You know, it wasn't like really like one day where I, you know, kind of was like heartbroken or however you want to look at it. It was, you know, kind of a process where, you know, you realize that you're maybe not in the running for a spot. Because, you know, for some players, they're pretty lucky. They're drafted. They're kind of, you know, placed right on the big club, and they have, you know, like a very good career. But kind of for everyone else, you really have to prove yourself. And there's a lot of people that want to be there. It's very competitive, and it's players from all over the world. You know, from Europe and from Russia, and they're you're trying to kind of make that team. So during that first few years of my professional career, you know, I was trying to make it, and you know, probably for a few reasons, it just ended up working out. But
and what teams were you playing for at that time? You said the Edmonton Oilers organization.
Yeah,
right?
so they call them farm teams, and they're like kind of like at a AAA level and AA level where players get to develop, and then you know, if you're having a good year, you kind of can move up those, and then hopefully end up you know, in the NHL. But you know, I kind of just got stuck in the minors, and I had to make a decision, you know, at that time if I thought it was realistic, if I kept working at it to end up making it to the NHL, which some players stick with it, and 7, 8, 9, 10 years even in the minors, and they make it. And you know, I give those guys all the credit because it's not easy. And you know, after a few years, I was just kind of weighing my options at the time, and decided to just explore a different route.
And that different route was Korea. How did Korea come into the picture?
Well, 1 year before that, it was I spent in Germany. So I had gone overseas to just try something new. But then that was just one quick season, and then I moved on to Korea right after.
Brock, I'm guessing that it wasn't an easy decision for you to come to Korea. Germany is one thing, but Asia is kind of unexplored territory as far as you were concerned, probably. So how did you make that difficult decision to come here?
Well, you know, that summer I was getting married. You know, so it wasn't just kind of my career at the time. You know, obviously I had been in Germany before, and she knew, my wife Kelly, that there was going to be, you know, opportunities kind of overseas and whatnot. But you know, at first she was, you know, both of us really didn't have any idea, and she was pretty nervous and concerned. But shortly after that, her parents had actually traveled through Asia. And I don't know if they were in South Korea, but they were in, you know, a couple other countries, and they said right away, like, they're like, how long is the contract for? And, you know, the normal season 7 or 8 months, and they were like, absolutely, like, go for it. And right away, I think that just kind of calmed her down, and for me, you know, like, I know that I kind of have the team, and maybe it's a little bit easier for me to make a trip like that. You know, so I was committed a little bit earlier. You know, kind of once she just was able to get a little bit of reassurance from, you know, some of her close family.
What was that first 7, 8 months like? Did you have some preconceptions of what it would be like to live in Korea, and what had changed?
Just, you know, like you want to be comfortable wherever you are. That's, you know, kind of your first concern is, you know, especially if you're going to be living somewhere. And I think, you know, when we landed here, and, you know, the first couple of weeks, you know, the organization and the team kind of really put those fears at ease by just, you know, really making us feel welcome, and, you know, kind of helping us in any way they could. You know, so then after that, you know, it was really just kind of an opportunity to really, you know, explore, you know, the country and the city that we're living in, and, you know, kind of embrace it as much as we could.
But I imagine that when you first came, you and Kelly first came, that there must have been some culture shock. What were some of those things that were maybe the most difficult things to adjust to that everyone would go through? Probably?
You know, it's for us, you know, just kind of walking around, sometimes, you know, you might get a few more looks than you normally would, but...
Because, I mean, you're 6'5", you're a pretty tall guy.
Taller than average, for sure.
Blonde, blue-eyed, and your wife is gorgeous, so, yeah.
You know, she would, she actually worked here for her first 4 years teaching English, which was, you know, a good part of our experience so far, and, you know, different years, she had different jobs, but 1 year she would take the bus, and you know, she'd run into some, you know, interesting people on the bus that maybe wanted to get a little too close to her. But you know, that can happen anywhere. And you know, our first year we came over with a family that we were actually close with, the Fast family, and I'd played with Brad Fast in college, and they had two young, Lindsay, his wife, gave birth to their second son 1 month after being in Korea. So that, for us coming over, it was easy compared to them. But they had a 2-year-old also at the time, and you know, had kind of the blonde hair, like almost white hair, and you know, I think there was the transition was maybe even harder for them, just with, you know, him interacting with other kids, and the other kids not quite. Not knowing exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
But, you know, now we're in the situation. I have a 14-month-old daughter, and Lucy, yes, and you know, my wife takes her to like a kid's mom, like play date almost, or like a music class, and PE they call it, at the department store, and I think, you know, just getting her involved as much as possible at a young age is. And interacting, you know, with the other kids, and it's the best thing for it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And with you pursuing hockey in the way that you were, I mean, it wasn't just a part-time thing for you. It was a serious matter for you. In the past, I imagine that she was probably one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah, yeah. You know, obviously, if it wasn't for my parents, I would never be where I'm at today. You know, they sacrificed a lot just, you know, with having a child in minor sports, you know, to begin with. That's a big time commitment, and, you know, they're taking you all over the country just so you can play in tournaments and games. But, you know, so there was no question that, you know, they were, you know, my biggest fans. You know, for a while there, you know, that side of it was removed. But, you know, none of us was expecting, you know, her to kind of really come back and be that you know, that same person.
So she suffered a car accident, yes?
While she was jogging. So she was hit by a car, you know, while jogging. And this was back in 2001. I was a freshman at Michigan State. And it was just, you know, one of those cases where we were just, in the beginning, we didn't really know what, you know, whether she was kind of going to make it or not. And then, you know, she survived the accident and was able to progress a little bit, but in a brain injury situation, there's, for the most part, there's a kind of a small window where you have a chance to recover.
Yes.
And that's 12 to 18 months. And during that time, the doctors kind of told us that her rehabilitation was kind of hitting a wall, and she was kind of going to kind of be the person that she was, you know, kind of for the rest of her life, which wasn't, you know, my mom, you know, before the accident.
I heard that she not only had a lot of, you know, massive kind of facial reconstruction, but that she didn't recognize or wasn't the same as she had been before.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
What did that mean? Like,
I mean, with the brain, it's so complex, and there's you know, so many things going on. You know, in her case, her frontal lobe was damaged, and this is you know, something that gives, I guess, us the ability to reason and to use logic, and this was kind of something that she lost during the accident. And when you lose that, I mean, that's a big part of who you are. And
sure.
You know, so we kind of had lost, you know, our mother in a sense. You know, she was there physically, but you know, not necessarily, you know, back to where we were hoping she was going to get to. You know, but you know, it's been a long journey and a lot of ups and downs. But surprisingly, you know, it's been, I think it's 11 years now. But in these last couple of years, she's made some improvements that, you know, have kind of taken the doctors by surprise, and no one really expected. Yeah, so you know, she's kind of reconnected with the family a little bit, and you know, we're really just at this point kind of looking forward to you know, getting. She's obviously a different person and a new person, but you know, she's getting to the point where she wants to be involved in our lives. And that's something that wasn't always the case, because it was just too difficult for her.
Because did she recognize you all? She didn't lose the memory, but just the ability to relate?
Some of the memory was gone, but she recognized her family and her kids, but she just wasn't she wasn't capable of kind of taking on the role. Relationships were very hard on her, and you know, to come back and be a mother to 4 kids and a husband was just not something that was possible. You know, she had you know, a self-focus at the time, and just kind of getting through the day was a success because of the challenges. You know, with this new brain injury, you just have to kind of come to grips with the situation, and you know, like you said, her coming back into our lives, you know, she's obviously a fan and wants to know how I'm doing, but you know, just you know, from a more exciting standpoint, you know, like with our, you know, having a daughter in the last year here, so and you know, bringing her around and having to see them have a, you know, like a, you know, a grandma, you know, relationship is just kind of something that has made everyone really happy.
5 years ago, Brock Radunske had to make a difficult decision to relocate to Korea, a country he had never been to. But with his family's support, he soldiered on and came to the land of the morning calm to realize his dreams.
So Brock, after playing 5 seasons here in Korea, this past March you became a naturalized citizen of Korea, South Korea, and this made news. This also allowed you to be on the Korean national team for ice hockey. What was the decision that you and, I'm sure your wife, also helped to make for you to do that?
You know, there's a number of reasons, I think, why you know, that was the eventual outcome. You know, I think for the most part, you know, we touched on it earlier. It was an easy decision to kind of just go forward and you know, be a part of this group, this national team that has this eventual goal of, you know, improving the world ranking and playing in the Olympics in 2018. You know, when you look at it from that standpoint, you know, it's maybe like a no-brainer, but you know, I have spent a lot of time in Korea already, and you know, if I were to stay another, you know, 5 years, that's, you know, a good chunk of time. So you know, we did have to kind of look at it seriously and you know, decide if it was kind of right for our family going forward. You know, if I can play that long, that's going to be a whole other question. But you know, just from the standpoint of the experience and you know, how I was treated, you know, before this even came to question, you know, I felt like I, you know, wanted to kind of give back also, and you know, and help them with this goal that they have going forward.
I see. So you didn't have to give up your Canadian citizenship, so you were a dual citizen, is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
So that made the decision probably a little bit easier, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that there is no question, though, that you have a great affinity for having been in Korea and that you would take that other citizenship of being Korean on, yes?
Yeah. I mean, representing your country is a great honor, for any athlete, and when it comes to kind of playing in an international games or tournament or representing your country, I hadn't experienced it before. It was something that I was looking forward to, and when I got the chance this kind of spring, late spring, early summer, it didn't disappoint. There's a reason why players, that's a dream of theirs to play for their country, and
Sure.
You could tell how much pride there was in that locker room. In the tournament I participated in.
Yes. So now, as a dual citizen of Canada and Korea, you have the privilege to be able to represent the Korean country, Korea, in the national and international sphere. So when you gained your citizenship, you also didn't just get it. You had to take a test. You had to also kind of jump through a couple of hoops that everyone who naturalizes as a Korean citizen has to do. What did you have to do?
Trying to think here. There's a few things that were part of the process. First, I guess the first major step was spending enough time in Korea. So this wouldn't have been able to happen, a couple years ago. Once it got to the point where they looked at it, I think, from like a little bit more of a residency, or where I spend my time. They had a case, to make, and I was pretty nervous because from what I had heard, it wasn't something that they were just giving away, and maybe a couple times players had been denied. So I was a little unsure just how everything was going to happen, and couldn't get too excited because or get my hopes up too high, because there was always that chance that it wasn't going to happen. But I guess I'm kind of going off here. But the first major pass, I guess, was the Korean Olympic Committee, KOC. I had an interview with, and I needed basically their blessing. And that was probably the hardest part.
Really?
Kind of
interviews and
it was almost like a panel of judges that were kind of questioning why I wanted to take part in this process, and I kind of had to put myself out there and a little bit and just tell them about why I wanted this to happen, and my experience in Korea to this day. And then going forward after that, I was lucky enough for them to kind of give them get the blessing from them, and there was just one final, almost like immigration type interview that I'm sure everyone has to do, and I had to study for that one, and
I heard that you had to sing the Korean national anthem. Did you?
I wouldn't call it singing. It was more of rehearsing or humming, but. I learned it, and they asked me if I knew it, and I rehearsed it back to them. And
Now you have a official kind of Korean registration card, right? You're an official Korean. Do you have a Korean name too?
Not official. There's been a couple that have been passed around, more nicknames.
Like what?
I don't even know if I can say. Everyone just laughs when I say them.
Do tell.
The original was, I guess he's an actor, it was Hyunbin, I think.
Hyunbin,
my translator, Ben Song, kind of gave it to me, but because I was looking for one right away, because a lot of people were asking me. But then the guys on the team, the national team, which is probably more a better nickname. Well, maybe not, but anyways, they call me Gil-Gil-He, which means long, because I'm so tall. But it's
pretty funny.
You gotta have a sense of humor, not take the game too serious, and there's a lot going through everything back home. Like mostly everyone has a pretty funny nickname, and you know, if that's what they want to call me, that's fine.
If you could choose your Korean name, do you think you know what you'd want to be called?
I don't even think I could pick my own name. I know, like, a lot of, with my wife teaching English, all the kids would pick their own English name.
Yes.
So I guess that's common here, but I have to work on picking a Korean name, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I like Kyugiri. That's kind of funny.
Here we are at an ice rink in Anyang Gyeonggi Province. The Halla players were busy practicing to prepare for the upcoming season. He skated across the ice, making aggressive and powerful plays together with his teammates. Radensky, the ace player on the team, also spared no efforts during practice. He's the textbook example of a hockey player that his teammates can imitate and look up to.
워낙 지금 한국 선수들이 경험이 적다 보니까 일단 경험 많은 선수들이 필요한데 그 딱 적합한 선수인 것 같아요. 그 외국의 경험과 한국의 경험이 그 많이 있기 때문에 그런 부분이 많이 도움이 되는 것 같아요. 경험적인 부분이.
Radensky has had vast experience playing hockey in North America since his childhood. He shares his expertise with the players to build a better team that can make coordinated plays together.
일단 뭐 팀에서 제일 에이스라고 생각하시면 되고요. 일단은 꼭 필요로 하는 선수죠. 저희 팀에서는 지금 분위기도 저희 지금 전 팀이 나이가 어려졌어요. 팀 전체가. 그래서 좀 어떻게 보면은 꼭 필요로 하는 선수. 팀에서 어떻게 보면은 이제 교두부 역할 좀 해주고 선배로 외국인이지만은 조금 이제 팀의 리더가 되어주는 역할을 하는 선수예요.
You are now a Korean national citizen.
Yeah.
You are a member of the national team. What kind of games have you played with the national team thus far?
I've really only represented the country in one tournament, and this tournament's every year at the end of the regular season, and it's before the summer break. So now that I'm getting back to the season again, there'll be a couple more opportunities. But in 2013 in Hungary, there was the World Championships.
Yes.
And we participated against England, Italy, Kazakhstan, Japan. So for myself, getting to kind of play in those type of games was something I was really looking forward to, and. Also just, my family was very supportive. My brother and dad came out to the tournament to watch me play. And
in Hungary?
Yeah, in
nice.
Hungary, yeah. So, just to kind of, for them to be a part of it, and, fortunately we actually had considering our ranking, had a fairly successful tournament. We won a couple big games. There's just really a lot of positives to take from that.
Fantastic. Well, I know that results are important, of course. However, you playing on the national team was the first for you. So I wonder what emotions were kind of going through you.
There was a few different emotions. Just starting the whole process, I was a little uneasy. Kind of just joining the team. They were obviously my teammates, but I joined them training. They train in this facility in Tannen. It's like kind of like an Olympic village. So it's athletes from across the board and in all sports, and obviously I'm kind of like the only white guy walking around, and I just kind of had to get comfortable very fast if I wanted to make the most of the situation. I think kind of going forward, now that I have that first year under my belt, it's going to be a breeze. But just everything happening with those interviews and kind of joining the team. It was a little uncomfortable, but something that I signed up for and was going to see through, and I knew that just kind of being a part of the team would be kind of all worth it, in the end. So the guys on the team made me feel so welcome, and the staff, and it really wasn't an issue, but just kind of, that thought and, in the back of your head, like, am I going to kind of be accepted, from the team, was an issue early on. But, fast forwarding to like the actual tournament and, playing in those games with the guys and really, having that goal as really a country for the first time was, such a unique experience and, something I'll always remember.
I'd like to ask you, what are some of the goals that you think the Korean national ice hockey team has?
Well, first off, I know that they want to move up in the world rankings, and I don't know. I think it was by the IIHF. It's a International Ice Hockey Federation. They've set a standard of kind of where I think they want the hockey team to be at, and even in order to even participate in the 2018 Olympics. So right off the bat, it's really just improving as much as possible, because where they set the bar is fairly high, and in order to do that in 4 years will be an accomplishment in itself. It's not out of reach, but getting a bid, I guess you would call it, yes. Would be successful for the team.
Now, I heard that you're also planning to play at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, and if you are still part of the national team at that point, you'll be 34, 35 years old. That's not a small age for a hockey player, no? So what do you think are some of the things that you will do to ensure your stamina and health until that time, and how are you preparing for Pyeongchang?
That's, I guess the 2014 Olympics are this winter, so that's, over 4 years away, and for an athlete that's a long time, because really you're focusing on kind of the next weekend's game. For me to still be at a high level a high performance in 2018, and if I were to be in consideration for the team, it would be an unbelievable experience, to be a part of, in order to kind of stay healthy and stay away from injuries. I would just be doing more of the same and taking the same approach that I'm taking just for getting through the season that I'm in right now.
And Brock, last but not least, what does it mean for you to be on the national team of Korea?
It's hard to sum up in a couple of words, but I've been, like we talked about before, in Korea for these past 5-6 seasons, and it's, some people might consider playing in Asia like a little bit off the map and not kind of knowing what's happening over here, but in the hockey world anyways. So for me, it really gives me a chance to kind of, playing on the team and putting on the jersey, kind of show people, what I've been up to these last 5 years, and that I haven't just been, kind of hiding on the other side of the world, and, by kind of being competitive against these other countries, and, really these players that I've played with, I really think they're good players, and I have confidence in them, and some of the players I think would do well elsewhere. Also, so for myself to be a part of that team, and kind of just it's almost like you just want to show the rest of the world that there is good hockey that's getting played in Korea, and by participating in these tournaments, that's one way for me to do it.
Fantastic. Well, Brock, it's been such a pleasure to have you on my show, and I thank you so much for sharing and kind of being so open about your experiences. You do have very unique experience for a non-ethnic Korean,
sure.
and I really look forward to hearing all about your successes for this season, for your team, as well as what's going to be happening in 2018 as well.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.